Welcome to the Mobile Workforce Podcast, where we sit down and have real conversations with business leaders that have been where you are. During these interviews, we'll dive into what it takes to improve systems and champion processes that maximize performance. Each week, our trailblazing guests share their experiences and understanding of the workforce to help inspire change, challenge our thinking, and share what it takes to successfully travel the road to profitability. Now here's our host, co-founder and chief evangelist of About Time and WorkMax, Mike Merrill.
Hello and welcome to the Mobile Workforce Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Merrill, and today we are sitting down with Doreen Bartoldus. Doreen is the current president of NAWIC and also the manager of water projects at Jacobs. In today's episode, Doreen and I are going to talk about sustainability and the important role it plays in the future of construction, as well as the role that technology plays in sustainability and also best practices for sustainability that contractors can be using. Thank you for joining us today, Doreen. Looking forward to the conversation.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Mike.
You bet. This is going to be awesome. So, number one, congratulations on being the president of NAWIC. That's super awesome. We love NAWIC here on the Mobile Workforce Podcast. And I just wonder, can you give our listeners a little bit of a heads up of what NAWIC's about and maybe what your role entails of?
Sure. NAWIC stands for National Association of Women in Construction. We are currently still a women-only organization. We're about a member of about 5,000. We're national. We're also in Guam and Alaska. So it started in 1955 by a group of women in Fort Worth, Texas, and has grown to about 118 chapters at this time. So that's basically it. It's women only for now, but that doesn't mean men can't join our events and things like that. So.
Well, that's awesome. So what is happening in NAWIC this particular year?
This year, we're kind of, my focus has been in vision equity, as well as focus on our own NAWIC infrastructure, actually. And as always, we focus on leadership, education, and networking. So Envision Equity has been our call this year. And that was based on my own experience. I'm about 45 years in construction, and getting equity in construction in that industry it's been kind of tough, but we're getting there. So this year, I just wanted to do that call to action for everyone to envision equity, and that's what we're focused on.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. So do you have some specific events that focus on that or other events that you're attending or exhibiting at this year or speaking?
Yes, actually, we started a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee about a year ago during Ann's year, and this year they have put out a lot of education on DE&I, both for us as an association and also for industry that can join us. And this year, the annual conference, as one of our tracks, is equity as our culture. So we are definitely putting education out there. You will see it on all sorts of social media, as well as at our conferences. So.
Oh, that's awesome. We know Ann's been a guest on the podcast and actually ran into her at a foundation accounting software user conference recently. So that was fun.
Yes, good.
I didn't expect to see her there, but it was a new position she had taken. So it was a pleasant surprise.
Yes.
And it's actually the first chance I got to meet her in person. So.
Oh, really? That's great. Yeah, she's our immediate past president. She's still on the board. So she's doing lots of work with us this year, for sure.
That's awesome. Well, she's great. Well, love the great work you're doing. And it makes me wonder, what can our listeners do to get involved in NAWIC, and whether it be directly as members or in more support?
Lots of ways. So to become a member, mainly just go to nawic.org. And you can find a chapter. You can also just Google NAWIC and your city. We're on Facebook. There's lots of ways to find a local chapter. You can get in contact with somebody from a local chapter. You can go to events, kind of test us out if you'd like. Go to some events, meet some people. But the best way to become a member is just go to our national website, nawic.org, and find a membership application and fill it out and pick your chapter, and you're in like Flynn. Then also we also have corporate sponsorships. We have sponsorships where corporations can support. Actually, Jacobs, my company, became a platinum sponsor this year, and that entitles them to 50 memberships. So we're bringing in those memberships right now. So that's another way to become a member.
Wow, that's awesome. So we highly encourage the listeners to not only get involved directly, but if there's other members of your team and women within your organization that might be interested in this, we highly encourage you to go to nawic.org and sign up.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet. So let's talk about your particular role and maybe kind of the topic we want to discuss in the podcast today, and that is sustainability. Why is that so important to you particularly?
Well, because it's been sort of a passion for me for a long time, and I know I'm in construction, it doesn't sound like that's the most environmentally friendly thing, but I was a child of the 70s, kind of giving away the age here. And the environment was a very big subject then, as it is now. And always wanted to do something in the environmental arena. I ended up going to school and getting my education in civil engineering. And at the time, it was called civil and environmental engineering. And I ended up focusing, our senior project was designing a wastewater treatment plant. So I kind of ended up in that direction. I started, I love construction, just being out in the field. And I ended up, that became my expertise, is working on water and wastewater infrastructure projects. And I moved into the city. And then later on in life, I actually got my MBA, and I got it in sustainable business. And that was through, I was reading Soul of a Business by the man from Tom's of Maine, and the Let My People Go Surfing from the guy from Patagonia, right? I read those books and I was like, oh, I need an MBA in sustainability. It was, and so I went and got my MBA in sustainability in 2011, and as best I can, I bring that education to my work.
Well, that's awesome. It always means a lot more when we have a cause and something we're passionate about, and then it pertains directly to your profession. That's a unique situation, and congratulations on that. So tell me this. Obviously, Jacobs is a huge company. Your role is it director of water? Is that, or what's the role?
They call me a manager of projects. So I manage several projects, several project managers. I manage project managers and projects themselves. And I'm focused on water infrastructure. So there's two agencies I kind of work with, which is the New York City Department of Environmental Protection and also the New York City Department of Design and Construction. The New York City Design and Construction, DDC, I'll just use the acronym. DDC does more of the sewer infrastructure, sewer, water, and highway infrastructure. And DEP is all the water, wastewater infrastructure. So I've been working with those agencies for the past 20 years or so. So I manage those construction projects. I have staff that I manage, and I also do some business development as well.
Wow, busy lady.
Yes, I have to agree with that.
Well, tell us this. Obviously, sustainability within construction is a pretty important thing. Why is it so important that our listeners pay attention to practices that really support sustainability as it relates to the different things that they're impacting in construction?
Um, well, because it's almost like it's going to be a mandate. And actually, here in New York, a lot of our regulations are built around sustainability. Many years ago, they had put out a plan NYC. A lot of regulations came out. One of them is very familiar to us. They call it Local Law 77, which requires trucks to have the best available technology to manage their exhaust fumes. We also have waste management specifications that are, they have to put in a plan to recycle a certain amount. So New York City, it's almost a mandate here, and I think it's going to be a mandate everywhere. And for construction, I think it's just, we might talk about this a little bit more later, but it's just a money saving as well. I mean, it increases efficiency. It's better for the environment, better for their people. Safety is also part of that. So it encompasses all of that. So it's just better. I mean, it's just the way we're going. And if we want to move forward as an industry, we really have to focus on it.
So, as it relates to sustainability, do you think there are any false narratives out there that people try and avoid this? I mean, obviously, if it's cleaner, if it's saves them money, if it's friendlier on the environment, what's the drawback? What could anybody argue against, participating in this?
Actually, I think it's more so that it's. I think they know it, but they don't know it in their bones, kind of deal. So construction has so many old habits that die hard. I mean, even old equipment and and there's they try to keep those margins. So there might be sort of the fear of stepping into that unknown a little bit, until they try it. So, for instance, when BIM came out, some contractors grabbed it right up and said, "We know this is going to save us money." Others just didn't want to make that initial investment. They don't know what the return on investment is. I think that's the
Okay.
problem.
Yeah, that makes sense. Fear of the unknown or what they're not used to.
Right.
So you mentioned materials and sourcing those locally. That obviously saves on fuel, shipping costs, labor. What are some other areas that contractors can be more sustainable?
Well, there's just keeping a sustainable site, erosion control, dust control, odor. There's that. There's in the hiring of your people, hiring local staff, also a diverse staff. That's also sustainability. Diversity is part of that. And when I went to school, it was people, profit, planet. So it's your people. Also the community. It's what your impact is on the community. The community. I used to teach CM master students, and I used to have them talk about stakeholders. And I said there's silent stakeholders, but any of these stakeholders, like say frogs or fish in the water, they can
Sure.
hold things up. So, for instance, also nesting, they can hold up the job. Community complaints, they can hold up a job. So, having sort of that stakeholder involvement and involving the community in what you're doing and making sure you're serving the community at the same time you're building right in there, kind of help that not in my backyard kind of deal.
Hmm.
So those are some of the other things they can do.
What about like waste management? Is that another area that you run into?
Oh, definitely waste management. With like the lead GA and also with the Envision. These are both sort of scorecards for environmental. One is for Envision is for infrastructure, and lead is for the building. They have those kind of parameters where you can win points or whatever and become certified for the waste management. So waste management is another place where they can save money through recycling, resale, reusing soil rather than shipping it off and bringing in new.
Sure.
If it's not contaminated or whatever. So there's a lot in waste management that can be managed and they can do a lot better with.
Yeah, and clean energy, that's kind of a hot topic. What are some clean energy methods that companies can invoke?
That's probably a little tougher one because they don't want to let go of old equipment, but say like electrical equipment, electrical tools. I wanted to look up before this podcast to see if there's such a thing as a solar generator, but I don't know that that'd be strong enough. So and also they can, if it's possible, see where they can plug in. You know what I mean? You set it normally at a construction site. You're setting up temporary power, and you're plugging into. Contractors can see if they're plugging into a system that has, where they can purchase solar or wind power rather than. So that's one way. And obviously, just being on site. So again, in New York City, it's mandated that they can't idle more than 3 minutes on the job site. They have to shut down the machines. Also, they can use ethanol, different types of fuels. If they're using fossil fuel, they can use a different type of fuel that burns cleaner. Things of that nature. LED lighting for any kind of temporary lighting on the site. Correct. Yes.
So I know when I hear the term sustainability, I'm thinking of maybe the physical structure, but are there some other areas that contractors can be sustainable aside from the physical building?
In the materials that as we discussed, where they come from and also what the materials are, but that comes from the designer, right? The designer has to. Also, things the contractor can do during construction. One of the things required, say in LEED, is to like HVAC ductwork has to be covered up so dust doesn't get in, so that when you install it, there's no dust coming out of it. So there's things like that the contractor can do, being very careful. Also, sort of just-in-time delivery. There's, bring things in right when you need them rather than having them sitting around. That's also a very efficient and sustainable way to manage work.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think finally we're seeing, I think the tide's turned to contractors becoming much more paperless. So we're not cutting down so many unnecessary trees and then paying a company to shred the documents and then dispose of the paper that we never utilized, right?
Yeah, and also there's all the technologies, the BIM technology, the drones, the robotics. There's much more that can be used on site to create safety and do things more efficiently.
You mentioned BIM before, and I think that's a really big one in eliminating waste of all sorts, right? I mean, maybe you can share with the
Right.
listeners from your perspective where does BIM save companies time, money, energy, fuel, et cetera?
Um, when it gets to construction, if you have had a BIM model put in place, or as they're doing now, the digital twin, you have already sort of, hopefully you have, this model has been shown to stakeholders. They know exactly what's going to be in place. The model can also be used, we used it for a couple things. We managed schedule that way. We could look 6 months ahead of time and see how things were being built. We, on one project, we were able to digitize or show digitally how a bridge deck was being put in over a railroad track. And they did it over and over to make sure they were missing, making sure it was going in safely. So they were able to do this, digitally a lot of times to make sure they were doing it safely. So when they got out there, it only took one pass and it was done, and it was done quickly and safely. So that's one way. Another way is for this huge water plant I worked on, they had put in these, we were putting in these overhead cranes, and the coordination on coordination drawings, it's kind of hard to see. On BIM, they hung a valve on BIM digitally. They hung a valve on this overhead crane and brought the valve around a corner, and they realized the valve was smacking through the walls in the corner. You know what I mean? Like, not, you didn't hear it, you saw it on digitally, and they were like, oh, so they relocated where the overhead crane was going to be installed inside the building. So that saved a lot of money later, I have to say. And it was, so that's going to operate efficiently. We didn't have to do a change order to move it when we were in the field going, oh goodness, that's not going to work. And then we would have to move it. So that was another money saving in operations. So operations was actually sitting in with us, viewing a lot of these things that were going to be happening later when the plant was built. So that's another way of saving for sure.
Yeah, what a testament. Building damage, maybe valve damage. I mean, with supply chain issues, what if they couldn't get another valve? I mean, who even knows that how big that snowball would get?
Correct. And those valves, I think, were coming from France or someplace.
Oh, that's crazy. Wow. So that's actually that's one of the best examples I've ever heard of something like that. It's not even related to, it's more related to the process, not even, not a collision of, plumbing and maybe exhaust pipes or HVAC or whatever else. It was something completely different.
Which we avoided a lot of those, but it was like
Sure.
we had to see how this thing was going to operate. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the digital twins, I think, have much more data, and they kind of, I'm not an expert on these. I've seen the BIM work. I haven't really seen the digital twin work, but I know the digital twins, they actually kind of simulate operation as well. They're like BIM on steroids. That's what I think it is. But there's a lot more data. They put in a lot more operations in there, and those are much more visible of how a place is going to operate and impact its community.
Yeah, I love that. What about digital tracking, like in apps and cloud-based computing and technologies?
In my world, we're not all the way there yet, but we do use electronic, say, document control systems, which is hopefully getting us paperless someday. We're not completely paperless. I even have paper on my desk. I have to say, I should be reading off an iPad or something. It's just some of us don't want to let go of it too well. So, but we are avoiding we used to have, like, you hand in a payment, and you have to have 16 copy or 5 copies for the 5 different people who are going to be reviewing it. Now you just kind of send one in and keep 1 copy, right? So things are improving. But there are apps out there. There's artificial intelligence, and just recently I saw a demonstration of one for inspection where it's almost like you talk to Siri or Alexa, and you tell them, I'm at site such and such, and I'm inspecting, and they'll say, what are you looking at? Like the artificial intelligence asks you these questions and has like almost like a drop down, but you're just talking to it. You don't have to do anything with a tablet in your hand, which makes it safer to walk around and just keep something in your pocket or a microphone on you to talk with Alexa, and that Alexa fills out the form, and that goes real time to where the engineers are sitting. And if there's issues, there's like real time responses to, and you can get experts on the phone right away if something's happening right then and there. So that kind of stuff is happening too.
Yeah, that's an exciting technology. What are there some other technologies that you see coming down the pike right now that will help increase sustainability even further?
I think that's the most I see right now, but there are robotics that can be utilized more. I think it's just a matter of thinking outside the box where these things can be used. Drones are now already doing bridge inspection, which kind of saves on traffic and shutting things down and sending somebody up and risking life and limb
Mm,
to do inspections. Same thing, you send divers down now. It's been around for a while that you send like a robotic submarine with a camera to go down there
right.
and take a look. But now drones are going up buildings and things like that. And robots can, walking robots can go into places where confined entry spaces, do inspection for people instead of sending people into a confined entry, confined space like a manhole or a chamber or a tunnel. Um, those kind of robotics, can kind of, be a little more nimble and,
Right.
you know, and keep a person safe.
Yeah, those I think I mean I love the three P's you said people um was it process,
People,
planet?
planet, profit.
Oh, profit.
People, planet, and profit. So you're in business to make money. So there's no reason not to make money in sustainability.
Yes.
It's what money keeps the world turning. But people really, it's the stakeholders, it's your staff, and planet actually is your community, the environment itself. So
Yeah, lots of goodness, all positive things. I don't think there's anything to be scared of. I think a lot of people hear some of these buzzwords or they think of sustainability or these other things and they think, oh no, it's going to cost me a fortune. It's maybe it's a political thing or it's some other thing than what it really is. And it's really just sounds to me like the way you're describing it, it's just being a better steward of the things that we have stewardship over and that we all need to get involved and work together on.
and we're with the climate impacts we're having now, there's a lot more also coming down in that respect too. Watching for what impact you have, like building something on the shoreline, or weather predictions. I guess better weather predictions. They're already helping us now. Like we'll get alerts that winds are coming. We shut down the cranes. We're much more ahead of it now in the weather conditions. And now I know they're building GPS database systems of utilities in the ground of a lot of these major cities to see, like, if you're going to build in a place, what kind of utilities are you impacting, and are
Mm.
you in a flood zone, and those kind of impacts, and is that the best place to go? So before you even get there and plan, there's sort of a sustainable aspect to that, the very proactive planning. So those kind of systems are coming our way as well.
Yeah, and I come from the construction and development world, so I I know all too well how commonly it feels like, oh, the developers have to pay for everything and upgrade all the infrastructure, and then they're going to pass the cost on to, the end consumer, right? The home's going to cost more, and then I mean, there's all these other things, and now there's more streets to take care of and to plow the snow on and to maintain, and it just goes on and on and on. And I think better planning just helps us be more efficient and get there appropriately instead of anybody having to really bear the brunt of everything all on their own. So with your role at Jacobs, are there sounds like you've got quite a few different initiatives, equity and inclusion. You've got all these clean energy type initiatives. Are there other things that your company's doing outside of just the sustainability side of things that you think you could shed some light on for companies that maybe are less familiar with some of those processes because they're not a large company as Jacobs?
We are coming out with some new strategies, and we are getting more focused on cyber and data management. Um, we'll be a lot more focused on that. We're looking to be more innovative. We're definitely looking at the climate action and how we can, you know, be more, think out of the box and more solutions for our clients. Um, on the construction side, all that trickles down to the construction side. We're definitely involved in digital twins.
Sure.
Um, so obviously the equity inclusion, the beyond, and we're also very global, and we're looking to become more agile, more globally, you know use all our resources, to become a more agile, nimble company. We're very large.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to, putting that into action. So.
Yeah, you have the ability to impact a great number of people when you're as large as Jacob. So that's wonderful to hear that leaders in our industry are looking ahead and planning for the future in a way that again is more sustainable for all of us.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
So more on I guess, on a personal level, what is one thing that you are most grateful for in your professional life?
Before I said earlier, that my Envision equity was based on my 45-year career, but that doesn't mean I haven't had great opportunities. I've had great advisors, and I was fortunate enough to listen to my advisors. took the advice when I got it and said, they might be right about that, and they were. When I look back, I've had some very good mentors, and I've had some great opportunities, and opportunities still seem to come my way, and I'm just very fortunate. And I'm very happy to be sitting right where I am right now as a NAWIC, and also very glad that we're talking sustainability. So this has been a passion all my life, and construction is maybe not the most obvious place to be sustainable, but it's one place where I can have impact. So.
Well, I think to your point, that's why we need to be having that conversation, right? We there's a lot of room for improvement, so that means there's opportunity, right?
Yes, exactly.
When we talk about all of these things together, and I really, honestly, I don't want to miss the opportunity to say again what NAWIC is doing and having involvement with women in construction and creating and allowing for opportunities to blossom that exist is more sustainable construction. It is tapping into a resource that is there and available and can be utilized and leveraged and be a blessing to the industry. And that's, we need to get more women involved in our industry.
Agreed. And that's, when you think about sustainability, and when I got my MBA, I'm like, how am I going to use this MBA? And I was already involved in women in construction. And I said, well, one of the steps I can help take is to help that diversity and speak up for women in construction and speak up for diverse teams also. So that became very important to me. And I said, yeah, as far as my diversity footprint, my sustainable footprint, that's one place where I can have impact. And that's how I kind of stepped forward with NAWIC I felt it was a good organization that puts women out there, and we elevate women in construction because, we can do the job and we do it pretty well. So, so that was very much a passion for me as well.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's awesome. So Doreen, tell me, and the listeners, what do you feel like you have developed personally that's become kind of your go-to superpower?
Well, Mike, I work in construction. So, well, the superpower I ended up developing, and I have, it sounds like bragging or whatever, but I have an ability to, and it's not read people. It's not like I can read people's minds, but when I meet people and I sit down in a meeting, and I can kind of, as people start talking, I can understand where they're coming from. In other words, I understand their motivations. When you deal with sort of, I don't want to say construction, especially in New York, can be very demanding. And, in the past, it has been very, you can deal with personalities, right? So construction is not just construction. It's a lot of dealing with people and personalities. So I've been able to, say, read the room, keep a sense of humor, get collaboration. So I feel like my superpower became being able to understand somebody and understand their motivations and actually kind of read their how they're thinking, so I can kind of help move them along and help a team collaborate. So that's become my superpower.
That's awesome. Every team can use it sounds like you're a air traffic controller and a quarterback and maybe a fullback, whatever it takes, right?
Yes, I guess a facilitator, that kind of thing.
Sure. Oh, yeah, I think that sounds awesome. Well, that was fun to learn a lot more about you. I guess that just to wrap up the conversation, share with us what you would hope that the listeners take away from our conversation today.
Well, the main thing is that there's so much more to construction. I mean, there's so much innovation coming our way and some innovation that we need. I think there's more to construction than just picking up a shovel, right?
Yeah.
So I hope listeners take away that there's more career paths they can take, and that we need more thought leaders and innovators and data scientists and AI. Construction is not limited to just the guys and gals who go out there and build the stuff. And those people on the ground need those innovations. So I hope that's the takeaway.
Love that. Well, that's a great way to end. Thank you so much for joining us today, Doreen. This was a lot of fun to get to know you.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right. We'll talk to you again down the road and be looking forward to it.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Thank you for joining us today on the Mobile Workforce Podcast, sponsored by About Time Technologies and WorkMax. If you liked the conversation we had today, or were able to learn anything new or helpful, please make sure to follow us on our WorkMax page on LinkedIn and on Instagram at WorkMax_. And subscribe to the show on iTunes or your preferred podcast platform so you will never miss another insightful episode. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review and share the show with your friends and colleagues. Your support means the world to us and will allow us to continue providing impactful information with others looking to improve their results in their business and, in turn, their life.